Welcome, everyone, to Frontier Opening Bell. Is a pretty Wednesday, the 17th of April. And just to raise the curtain on the show for today, it was a brutal Monday for many stock markets around the world. European stock market fell very sharply yesterday. We saw the emerging markets also whipped, and Africa took its own share. Front Africa took its own share of the beating on risky assets on Tuesday. The Nigerian stock market saw 1.11 trillion naira wipeout. That's roughly 2%. The GSE, the biggest exchange on the continent, saw a 2.04% decline after Monday's roaring start to the new week in Cairo. The Egyptian stock market fell about 0.75%. The Nairobi market lost 0.87%, while the BRVM was down. Composite was down below 219 by 51 basis points. Quite a very disappointing Tuesday as markets around the world, traders and investors fretted over the whole crisis in the Middle East and whether inflation is here much for longer and how much longer do we have to wait to see interest rate cuts, at least by the big economies around the world, while Africa and a few other regions will have to hold on to their current high level of interest rates and whether they need to hike to keep economy running. Despite all the positive soundbites from the World Bank IMF spring meetings, since we started the week-long event started on Monday, the markets taking a different look at things entirely from inflation, interest rate, and geopolitical crisis perspective. So let's move on, by the way, and just I'll touch on a few headlines for you. As always, we started from where the sun rises on the east, and that's the East and Central Africa. These are some of the headlines we're looking at. Kenya Airways and South African Airways are back on the table with a plan to set up a single Pan-African airline after previous attempts fluttered in the wave, in the manner of speaking. So now they're back to see how they can put together a single airline for Africa. We'll look to see how this goes, by the way. The startups are looking to boost agricultural exports at the Ethiopian exposition. That will be good. Ethiopia is one of Africa's main agro-allied economy. By the way, Equity Bank of Kenya says it has expanded its money transfer to about 30 countries. And that's quite impressive there but from this bank, financial services group headquartered in Nairobi. Kenya has withdrawn tea worth about 2 billion shillings from the market due to certain issues it's got to deal with. So let's keep those headlines in mind. There's quite a whole lot more to deal with. But let's get on to West Africa. And of course, you've got the news out of Nigeria's, the Naira fell for the first time in weeks yesterday by 1.1% against the US dollar, 31,145 against the greenback, with news coming through from Bloomberg that Nigeria central bank will have burnt nearly $2 billion over just about a month to sustain the exchange rate level, propping it up in the manner of speaking. Since we saw nearly 2,000 rates to the dollar about 3 months ago, the Naira has been gaining strongly against the US dollar, according to the Bloomberg report. But now it looks like there's a little bit of a softening there. But let's see what today, tomorrow will bring before the end of this week on the Nigerian market. But good news, by the way, as Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday unveiled the new single window platform for imports and exports in Nigeria that will support trade facilitation within the country. Let's see how this works with government and the private sector participating in this particular platform. Nigeria's is expected to grow, economy is expected to grow 3.3% in the current year. That's up from 3% previous forecast that we saw from the International Monetary Fund. And Ivory Coast have put pen to paper, signing production sharing deals with ExxonMobil, one of the world's largest oil and gas energy producer. And Liberia has adopted interagency strategy to combat tax evasion, financial crimes in the country, part of the ratcheting up that the new president is doing to pull the economy of Liberia, small economy, farther end of the West Coast on track. And those are your headlines from West Africa. Let's move on to Southern Africa, with Zimbabwe in the news, and a few other economies as well, because the whole discussions between Zimbabwe, its creditors and debtors continue to weigh on the headlines. The IMF says it's standing ready to support Zimbabwe's macroeconomic stability. That was from Christina Georgieva just about 2 days ago. But very surprising positive news. Mining industry in South Africa grew roughly 10% in February, according to the latest data. We've got a whole lot more this week. Fidelity Life Asset Management in Zimbabwe is floating a new real estate investment trust. About $70 million is the size of what has been floated, which will help to invest in hotel, hospitality, medical facility and what have you around Victoria Falls and other regions in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, Popu Group is back in the green. Books are now looking black in the manner of speaking as the company returns to double-digit profit. Those reporting came on the GSE. And Zimbabwe's central bank governor says it's rolling out what he calls back to basics plan, and said the recent introduction a week ago of the new ZiG currency is chapter 1 of what is left to be done. We want to see what more is contained, what more is on that plan, what are called back to basics for the central bank or the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Elon Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, is now going to charge new users a very small fee before they can tweet, post, and like, whatever it is. But let's see. Remember, Elon Musk spent about $40 billion to buy Twitter just about a year or so ago. So let's keep that in mind. Let's move on to our northern part of the continent with some of the headlines coming through. Of course, the markets are fully reopened this week after the long Eid al-Fitr holiday. The Egyptian stock market and the markets in Casablanca, the Tunisian markets were all in the red on Tuesday, in line with many other markets across frontier Africa and, of course, around the world as well. Quite a very naughty Tuesday there for markets. But, of course, you've got Egypt and Japan discussing what you call partnerships at the ongoing spring meetings of the World Bank and the IMF in Washington. Egypt is there on the ground looking for more partnerships and all that President El-Sisi needs. And demand for Egyptian bonds surging after a $55 billion bailout and another investment package which came in through the IMF, the World Bank, and a few other countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others within that particular region. You've got a whole lot more grounds to cover also across Morocco and other countries within that particular region. And that's about it for today on your Frontier Opening Bell. I am Boostin Amofai. Do have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.